So in today's Cheeky Trading, I'll be finishing talking about the basics that you need to know about Bitcoin. Last week I talked about what's Bitcoin, how does it work, and the technology behind it. And today I'm gonna be talking about the most frequent Bitcoin misconceptions, where can you actually buy it and sell it, how to properly secure it and store it. So if you're curious about this, just chill and keep watching. Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, and this is your host, the Chick Entrepreneur. So there's a lot of things that people don't really know about Bitcoin, and one of the reasons that I'm creating this series is really to educate them and to put all my research in front so that you really know what Bitcoin is about. So let's head to some of the most frequent Bitcoin's misconception. So on the first place, we got Bitcoin is dead, and this is something that some friends of mine have asked me, is that a trend that is already over? So in order to explain that more properly, let me head to the CoinMarketCap. So this is a web page where you can actually see the market and all the money that's poured in, and the crypto market currency in general. So here you can see the number of cryptocurrencies listed on this web page. You can see the market cap, which is basically all the money that's into this industry. And you can see the volume, the 24-hour volume of transactions, buying and selling. And in the end, you can see the BTC dominance, which is 53.1%. And this is something important because the overall market cap, it's around 200 billion right now. And at its peak, it was 800 billion. And I've mentioned this in previous videos where I compared the cryptocurrency market with other markets such as Forex, for instance, that has several trillions, or with the stock exchange. Let's say just Apple, it's a company that's worth over $1 trillion, and that's way more than all the cryptocurrency markets. We've talked about gold, that it's around 7 trillion. And again, this is a very low liquidity market, and the reason is because it's very new, it's very young. So let's take a look at Bitcoin. We can see that Bitcoin has over 114 billion in market cap. So there's a lot of people that still think that Bitcoin has value, and there's a lot of people that are trading Bitcoin, and we can see that the overall volume is over 4 billion. So if you think that Bitcoin is dead, well, it's quite the opposite. It's still being traded, it's still being stipulated on, and it's still working. So the second most common misconception is that Bitcoin is anonymous. And this is something that I told you in the past video, that Bitcoin is not anonymous, it's pseudonymous. So in order to really look what this means, I'm gonna head to the CoinMarketCap. You can click on the Explorer link, and basically you're gonna have all the transactions that have been made. Now I just chose a random address. So what Bitcoin has is, for instance, there is this public address, and basically this is the name of your Bitcoin account, let's say. And for instance, this is just a random one, so I don't know who he is. But we can see all the transactions, we can see where has he put the money, like some Bitcoin has gone out from his account and so on. But here the important thing is that Bitcoin is not anonymous, it's pseudonymous, because I don't know who he is. I know that this is his account, but if I were to know who's controlling this account, of course I would have access to who the person is. And this is a very important thing to know about Bitcoin. So let's head to number 3. Bitcoin is only used by criminals. And in order to explain more about that, I'm gonna head to this news from August 7, 2019, and it says, US DEA, criminal activity in cryptocurrency has dropped 80% since 2013. And let's just read a little bit about it. An agent of the US Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, has noted that Bitcoin's BTC role in crimes has dropped to just 10% of transactions, while transactions themselves have grown tremendously. So this is very important, because what this tells us is that Bitcoin is really not being used by this. And I spoke about this on last week's video, that one of the things that brought attention into Bitcoin is that it was used by this criminal activity by the deep web. And I'm just gonna read a quote in here which says, the blockchain actually gives us a lot of tools to be able to identify people. I actually want them to keep using them. And the thing is, because this is transparent and we have this public layer, it's really easy to track down these criminals. And the reason is because they need to pour out the money out in fiat, and thus they need an exchange. So if the exchange know who they are, it's very easy to just find out where the money is going. So let's get to the fourth point. Bitcoin is not backed up by anything. It has no value. So there's a lot of people that compare Bitcoin against gold, and for instance they say that it's kind of the same thing, but gold is something tangible, it's a metal, and I've made a video regarding Bitcoin and gold that you should watch. But the important thing here is that it might seem that it's not backed up by anything, but people don't understand the real value of something being decentralized. They don't understand the value of something that's censorship resistant. If this was basically a commercial from MasterCard, it would say being decentralized and censorship free, it's priceless. For everything else, use MasterCard or whatever. So this is something very, very important that people are not really taking into consideration. And also on this scenario, we also have a lot of industry behind Bitcoin. There is this mining industry. People are selling all this equipment in order to mine Bitcoin. There's people being fed. There's a whole industry. There's a whole economic system behind it. So now, one of the other points, because Bitcoin is so volatile, it's thus useless. And this is something very interesting because this is actually not true. There's a lot of applications that actually enable you to buy and sell Bitcoin or pay for things with the price right now. And there's a lot of ways to move around the volatility. So this is not really a problem. And you would say, for instance, there's a lot of people that prefer having their money in cryptocurrency, and now there's more projects going out. We have this really important project backed by Microsoft and other companies, which will let the user who actually has cryptocurrencies to actually spend the money in some of the industries, and that's something very, very good for the market. A lot of people say that Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme, and when I hear people saying Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme, I cannot do anything but laugh, because this really represents the ignorance that a lot of people have regarding Bitcoin. So first of all, what's a Ponzi scheme? Initially, you need a head, because it's basically a pyramid scheme, right? You need a head, and Bitcoin doesn't have a head. It's a decentralized. No one has ownership of Bitcoin. And this is very important because in these pyramid schemes, you have this initial head who's convincing people to invest money. So here, no one is really convincing you to invest money, to invest in Bitcoin, because no one owns Bitcoin. If you pour your money in or you get it out, no one really cares about it. So the second thing is that there is no promises in Bitcoin. No one's telling you that you're gonna earn money. No one's guaranteeing you that. And in a Ponzi scheme, what you have is that they will be telling you that you're gonna make all these gains, that you're gonna get your financial freedom, for instance. But the way that they pay you is by the new investors that are coming in, and that's why this is a pyramid, because all the people from the bottom are actually paying the people from the top. But if you think about Bitcoin, even if it has no people at all, well, let's say 1, 2, 3 nodes, the Bitcoin network still works. So in conclusion, Bitcoin is not a Ponzi scheme. And now this is something very, very important that people think, and this might or not be true. Bitcoin is a bubble. But in order to tackle this misconception, I'm gonna say what is not a bubble, you know? So let's head to Investopedia to look at the definition of what a bubble is. A bubble is an economic cycle characterized by the rapid escalation of asset prices followed by a contraction. It is created by a surge in asset prices, unwarranted by the fundamentals of the asset and driven by exuberant market behavior. When no more investors are willing to buy at the elevated price, a massive sell-off occurs, causing the bubble to deflate. So we have different types of bubbles. We have very, very different types of bubbles, and let's go through some of them. One of the most famous is the .com bubble. You know, all these companies that just created their websites, they got a lot of investors just because they put .com in their name. And this is something very important because that made the market really go high, and then it burst. But even though that happened, we still see some of the most profitable and some of the biggest companies still there. You can still see, for instance, here it's Google. You can still see Amazon. So now let's take a look at other type of bubbles. You know, you have the tulip mania, you have Mississippi bubble, you have the tech bubble, financial crisis, the stock in 2008. You have the Japanese stocks, the Great Depression. So you have all these bubbles. But something to bear in mind is that you need to take into consideration the time scales and the nature of the bubble. Let's say, for instance, the housing bubble. You know, this was in correlation with the prices of people buying house, and this creating this bubble and sudden rise of the price. But if you think about it, buying a house and getting all the money, it takes longer than, for instance, Bitcoin, because Bitcoin you can only go, if you have a credit card, if you have a debit card, the only thing that you really need is to go to one of these exchanges. They'll ask for your passport, you just give it to them and you invest, and that's it. So the filter that you require to go into Bitcoin is way less than the filter that you require, for instance, to buy a house. And if we actually go and take a look at today's price in Bitcoin, you can notice that there was this increase in 2000 at the end of 2017. And one of the main reasons is because people were not educated. They didn't know what Bitcoin is and what is it for. Therefore, you have a lot of people who just jump in, going through this FOMO, or fear of missing out, and you had all these kind of people going, and the price suddenly rise. And of course, this was gonna go down because all these people, they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know what they were investing, and having this correction going down was actually really good, really healthy, because now I can see a lot of people that are still in this space that are really getting educated. And that's one of the missions of this series, in particular Chicken Trading, is to really understand what you're getting into, not only go and speculate and say, hey, Bitcoin's gonna go up, I'm just gonna jump in. No, that's quite the opposite. So now that we talk about these misconceptions, I'm gonna talk about where can you actually buy and sell your Bitcoin. So if we see here, I listed some exchanges. So basically, like, an exchange is a place where you can actually buy and sell. And there's a lot of exchanges. There's mainly two specific types as of right now. There's exchanges where you can trade for fiat, which is your normal currency, let's say the euro, the dollar, the pound, whatever you want. And there's more cryptocurrency oriented exchanges, which they only accept different types of cryptocurrencies and different type of altcoins between each other. And I'm gonna talk more about altcoins in the next video. But anyways, we have, I didn't list them in order of importance. Here, I just grabbed the, let's say, top 3 in popularity. And some of the most recognized exchanges are, for instance, Coinbase, Bitstamp, and Kraken. So let's talk a little bit about Coinbase. So Coinbase is one of the best known fiat to crypto platform in the world, and it's based in San Francisco, and it's also one of the most heavily regulated. And they actually have an app that's very convenient because you can only download it and buy it on the go. Now let's talk about Bitstamp. It's the second only to Coinbase for popularity. And it's based in Luxembourg, and it started in 2011 as a competition to the now defunct Mt. Gox. So it has a very good history of reliability in this sense. And the last one that I want to talk about in this scenario is Kraken, and it's less popular than Coinbase and Bitstamp, but it still wields a big authority in the crypto space. It's very recognized. And I'm gonna tell you to do your own due diligence to research more about these exchanges before actually buying and selling. So let's say that you're more in the international environment, because all these, well, most of these exchanges, they're gonna be working mainly for the US, for the Eurozone, and maybe the UK, Australia, Canada. So if you're, for instance, in Mexico, because I know a lot of you guys who follow me are from there, you can also take a look at these international exchanges. So for instance, we have CoinMama, and this allows customers in almost every country to buy Bitcoin with a credit or debit card. But one downside that they have is that they charge a 6% fee. The next one is CEX.io. And it's almost the same thing as CoinMama. It is very trusted, it's very reliable. And the last is Local Bitcoins, and this is an escrow service which also helps to match Bitcoin buyers and sellers. So these are all options that you can go do your own research. So for the sake of transparency, I'm going to say that I personally use Coinbase and CEX.io. And if you would like to support the channel, I'm going to leave some affiliate links where you can go there and buy your Bitcoin. But again, before doing anything, please do your due diligence and research them. If you like them and you like to support the channel, please go. If you don't like them, if there's something that you find that's better, of course, go with that research that you do. So let's head into another very important topic, and it's how to store your Bitcoin. So let's say now that you bought them, or what's the best way to actually store them. So in here you will see that I listed from least secure to the most secure. And first of all, we have online wallets. Online wallets are all these, for instance, platforms like Coinbase or any other exchanges that you only have to have a password in order to access your Bitcoin and move it from there. And here's the thing, whenever you have a wallet, a cryptocurrency wallet, you have two things. You have the public address, which is basically your pseudonym, and you have your private keys, which is basically the keys to access your Bitcoin. So whenever you have an online wallet, your keys are going to be held by the exchange. They're going to be held by this web page. And this is very important because you don't have control over it. And this is why you've heard a lot of hackings into different exchanges and that they stole this amount of money. It's not because they can actually hack you and steal your money, but they can actually hack their servers and steal their private keys. The next type of wallets that I want to talk about is basically the desktop wallets and the mobile wallets, which they are about the same. And the difference to this is that basically you store these private keys in your own computer or in your own phone. So this is better than having them online because at the very least you know that it's in a hardware. So as long as you keep secure of that hardware, it's gonna be good. But one of the problems is that if, for instance, someone is hacking you, it's a real problem because they can access through your documents, they can access through your files, and if they know, for instance, your password for that specific wallet, they're gonna be able to use your cryptocurrencies, and they're gonna be able to hack them and steal them. A very important ones that I want to talk about is about the paper wallets, and these are probably one of the most secure types out there. And paper wallets and hardware wallets are actually offline methods to actually store your Bitcoin. They're called cold storage, and this is some of the most secure that you can actually have. And for instance, paper wallets are basically you create your wallet and you receive either a PDF that you can print that's saying your public address and it's saying your private keys. And if you print it or you save it, the security of all your cryptocurrency is gonna be based on how secure you can actually store that piece of information. But one of the main problems, and well, the only problems with paper wallets is that, for instance, if you actually want to buy and sell and you need to copy your private key, you have to log in into your computer and you're gonna have to use that as a platform. And this is a problem because if you copy paste it, you can have a malware that actually goes into your computer and maybe copies that specific private key, and that's, even though it's a lower chances of that happening, that's something that could happen. And finally, I'm gonna talk about these hardware wallets. Hardware wallets are the most secure, and the reason is because they're kind of like USBs. So you have these USBs which are offline and no one can really access them unless they steal it. But now this is more important because even if they steal it, you still have a password for the device, and not only that, you have a 24 list of words that you can use in order to obtain back your cryptocurrencies. And that again, it's gonna be protected in the same way that you protect these words and the way that you actually store them and the way that you store all this information. So it's really up to you to have your own security. And this is one of the key things that cryptocurrencies are really good for, is because the power and the control is up to you. It's not up to the banks, it's not up to a third party. For the first time, you have the actual control of the decision that you take regarding your financial situation. And just before I finish with this topic, I want to, again, for the sake of transparency, that I actually use Ledger Nano S. And I find it really useful and very secure, and I have not had any problems with it. And if you would like to know more about it, again, you can go and see the link in the description. And I would like to remember before that all the links that I put is of things that I actually use, because something that I would never do is creating marketing for something that I don't believe in, or something that I don't think that is gonna be useful or I would use myself. So these are the things that I'm using, and if you would like to support the channel, there you have the link for it. So anyways guys, this was a really packed video. There's a lot to discuss regarding cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. In any case, if you enjoy my content, and only if you enjoy it, please mind subscribing and maybe leaving me a thumbs up. If you would like to know more about the content I'm creating, you can head up to my other social media. I have an Instagram account and also a Facebook page. Links will be in the description. Also, very importantly, I've also mentioned Cars community on Discord. So I would recommend you to go in there because there's a lot of new people that are learning about cryptocurrencies, that are trading, and you can ask a lot of questions. I'm very active on that community, and you can write to me in there at the Chicken Entrepreneur. So anyway guys, before I go, as always, I would like to remind you, stay smart, stay bold, but most important of all, stay cheeky. Take care.